One look at this and you would believe it's an Ultrabook. Well, it is, sort of. This is the Dell XPS 12 and they like to call it the Convertible Ultrabook. We'll get into the details of that a little later in this video review, but first let's just run you through the build quality of this particular Ultrabook. Straight out of the box, this looks exactly like the XPS 13 and the XPS 14 that we had reviewed recently. The use of the materials is closer to the XPS 13 than the XPS 14 because what this Ultrabook misses out on is the silicone base on the underside for heat channeling. Not that that's a big problem though. Overall, it feels like a very classy and sophisticated Ultrabook. It has that aggressive look to it, yet it'll fit very perfectly in a boardroom meeting when you're using your laptop there in the midst of all those boring business looking Ultrabooks. What Dell have basically done is exactly replicated the design from the XPS 12, from the XPS 13 and the XPS 14, and the best part about that is the keyboard. It's exactly the same as the predecessors. There's absolutely no change despite the fact that this has a slightly smaller footprint. The same goes for the touchpad. The only little niggle is the integrated keys, and the usage area for the right and the left click key is a little too close to the corners, but once you get used to it, that should not be a problem. The port placement is on the two sides. You have two USB ports on this side along with a mini display port. You have the slider power key on one side along with the volume rocker. No ports at the back, which we are very thankful for. Usually that's a bit of an annoyance when there are ports at the back of the display. However, in comparison to the two predecessor XPS series Ultrabooks, this one is very slim. Now, how they've done it is they've removed the graphics capabilities that we saw in the XPS 14, and this one just has the Intel HD 4000. Also, why they have been forced to slim this down is because you can try to use this as a tablet, though it's not very comfortable that way, but you can still try to use it as a tablet. But all in all, if you're using this as an Ultrabook, this is a very slim and a light and an easy Ultrabook to carry around. Now let's just get you into how this works in the convertible mode. From the outset, it's a typical Ultrabook. However, what you can do is open this up like this and swivel it back. Now what you see is essentially the lid. Close it up and you have the tablet. The orientation changes as you change the mode of the tablet. That's about it. There's just one Windows key here that takes you to the Metro UI or the modern UI as Microsoft has been forced to call it. All in all, this has some very decent specs. It has a Core i5 processor, the 3317U that we've seen across multiple Ultrabooks throughout, 4 gigs of RAM and a 128 gig SSD, which is extremely fast. However, in real life usage, this one seems to be slightly slower than all the other Ultrabooks with the same power package. That is mostly because Dell surely has clocked down the processor on this one. How the power mapping has been changed for two things. One, the battery life, enhanced battery life, which we tested and was excellent. A word on that a little later. The second and possibly the biggest factor in this could have been the heat. Dell cannot afford a very powerful tablet and a convertible Ultrabook which heats up a lot. So it's kind of trying to balance the entire thing. Coming back to the battery life thing, we tested 5 hours of battery life under our full load battery test. So in a sense, you could basically be getting slightly more than a conventional Ultrabook in this. You could look at about 8.5 hours of battery life on this if you're not using it for multimedia. That's good enough to pretty much get you through an entire day at work. That's excellent. So anyone who's on the move a lot, this one will last you a complete day. All in all, for about 90,000 rupees, this one, well, it's sophisticated, it's classy, it's light, it has an excellent battery life. But if you're looking for something very powerful, then you might as well consider the XPS 14, because that, in our benchmark tests, despite having the same power package, is slightly quicker.